Okay, so now we're going to switch our focus to the anterior abdominal wall. And we have 4 muscles that we'll be looking at in this area. And several of these are broad, flat muscles. So instead of having a tendon as their connective tissue structure, if they have a connective tissue structure attaching them to a bone, several of these will have an aponeurosis. Okay, and so we'll look at one that has an aponeurosis right away. And the first muscle we're looking at here is the external oblique muscle. Okay, so this muscle right here is the external oblique, and all that you can see here that's kind of this light reddish color is the muscle, and then this white material that you can see is actually what is extending from the muscle as its connective tissue attachment, and this is its aponeurosis. Okay, so an aponeurosis is a place where you have a sheet-like arrangement of dense regular connective tissue that is attaching a muscle to another structure. Okay, in this case, the aponeurosis is connecting it to the midline here, where there are other aponeuroses from other muscles that are all meeting there to form a collection of connective tissue at this location. So we're going to reflect this aponeurosis, and we're going to reflect the muscle. And when we do that, we can see the next layer of muscle, which is this muscle here, which is the internal oblique. Okay, now the internal oblique, you can see, has basically the opposite orientation to the external oblique. So I'm going to flip the external oblique back. And as you're looking at the muscle, you can see what look like lines running through it. And those lines are where the fascicles in the muscle are located. And all of the fascicles are basically oriented in the direction that I have the forceps sitting right now. So they're running inferiorly toward the midline. Okay, as we reflect the external oblique and look at the internal oblique, we can see those lines again, but they're running in the opposite orientation. Okay, so basically, again, to look at the forceps, this is the orientation of the fascicles now. So they're running superiorly toward the midline. Okay, so internal oblique and external oblique, different orientation of the fascicles. We can see that we also have an aponeurosis here that is connecting this muscle to the midline, but I've removed some of it to make it easier to reflect. Okay, so now we're going to reflect the internal oblique, and when we do that, we can see the third layer of muscle in the lateral abdominal wall, and that is the transversus abdominis. Okay, so the transversus abdominis is referred to as the transversus because in the human, its fibers run essentially horizontal. Okay, that's not exactly true throughout the entire length of the transversus in the cat, but in locations here, like inferiorly in the abdominal wall, you can see the fascicles running fairly horizontally. Okay, the last muscle in this area is the rectus abdominis. Okay, and there's one rectus abdominis mostly dissected right here. Okay, so this is the strap-like muscle that is right next to the midline where all of these aponeuroses are meeting. Okay, and I'm going to flip this one over so you can see the other side a little bit here. Let me grab it a little better. Okay, and when you get in there, you can actually see that the fascicles in the rectus abdominis are running almost vertically. Okay, so when this muscle contracts, its attachment points are the pubic symphysis as its origin and the xiphoid process and the costal cartilages of ribs 5 through 7 as its insertion. So it actually pulls the chest towards the pubic bone. So that allows us to have that flexion movement that affects our vertebral column and causes us to kind of double over. Okay, now the cat doesn't have the big tendinous insertions that humans have in their rectus abdominis. Actually, in this cat, if you zoom right in there, there's actually a little tendinous insertion right there, but it doesn't have the big one, so it doesn't get that 6-pack or 4-pack arrangement depending on what your genetic makeup is. Okay, so again, rectus abdominis, transversus abdominis, internal oblique, external oblique.